This is me, co-founder, creative director, and CEO of Nyamakop. I studied game design at WITS and co-founded Nyamakop straight out of that program. Until recently, I was most well known for making this game, Semblance. First African-developed IP to launch on any Nintendo console ever, which is pretty cool. Started like this in 2015. Very impressive. Very cool. By the end, it looked like this in 2018. So quite a journey. When we co-founded the studio, I looked like this. So as you can see, the years have not been kind to me.
Oh, you were a baby. Weren't you 12 there?
I was 12.
A big 12-year-old.
That's one of my other co-founders, Shakir Kamani. Cool dude, way cooler than I am. But he's not here, so who cares? Who are you?
Who am I indeed? I was that little girl. Those two lovebirds in the tree are my parents. Those are the mashikos. Oh, yeah. They would be mortified if they knew that I was showing pictures of them as young lovers. But what you gonna do? So I actually grew up in Soweto in a home with no books. And then I'll show you everything that I was so I was very excited when I got to big school, and there was a library at big school, and I could read comics and I could read books. So that's really when I started my journey in the world of books. And as you can see, it wasn't even like, it wasn't Marvel or anything. It was these guys, Casper, Wendy, Spooky. These are the kinds of books I was reading, and that's really was my introduction from the school library. And then something changed when I was still in primary school. I like to call them the cliques. And the first clique for me was a book called The Color Purple. So my dad I used to get library privileges, and he used to just look at the titles of the books to make sure I wasn't reading anything hectic. He just saw The Color Purple and he's like, how bad can the book be? This is a book for grown-ups. But it was the first book I read that was about Black people. And immediately I was like, oh, you mean we can be in books too, not just the Bona and the Pace magazines? So that was my first click on a real story about Black people. And then the second click happened in high school. When I read this book by a Zimbabwean writer, Tsitsi Dangaremba, and it's called Nervous Conditions. And my late uncle is from Zimbabwe. And so I thought, oh, you can write books about Black people you're related to. So slowly I was coming to this idea that I can write stories about people like me. And then in university, the third click was a book by somebody who's a very close friend of mine now, Zakes Mda, and it's called Ways of Dying. And it was about people in South Africa. And that's when I realized I too can write about people like me. Many, many years later, in 2016, my debut novel, The Yearning, was published, and it became a bestseller. It won awards. And then 2 years later was my short story collection, Intruders. And really that was just about things like vampires and werewolves, but bringing them to South Africa. So like there's a vampire from Limpopo who falls in love with a werewolf from Mitchell's Plain. There's a zombie apocalypse that happens in Soweto. So I really liked kind of putting us in culture like that. And once that had happened, I worked on a comic book with Loiso Mkhize and Clyde Beach Kwezi. Yeah, so I wrote for Kwezi from issue 7 all the way to, what was the last one? To issue 15. And I've written for Marvel as well. So comic books, I've written for Spider-Man, Miles Morales. I also wrote, I created the first Black Captain America woman, a Black female Captain America. And then I worked on when they brought back Moon Girl before the TV series came on. I wrote a bunch of Moon Girl and the Avengers, Moon Girl and X-Men, and Moon Girl and Spider-Man. And then for DC, I worked on bringing back a property called Kid Eternity. And so all of these things led me to where we are now, talking about Relooted.
So you sold out, is that what you're telling me? So yes, we made Relooted. Here is a very small part of the core team. I think one of the cool and challenging things about games is that all the different skill sets you need to make one. Relooted ended up having like 230 people in the credits. And this is a photo of the majority of the core team, I would say. It's about 25 people and 18 different job roles. One of my favorite quotes about making games is video games are every art form ever put together and made interactive. So there really is sort of a space for everyone depending on what you want to do and what your passion is. But getting ahead of ourselves, let's talk quickly about the ciphering games industry. All of these games are made in South Africa, which is kind of cool.
Wait, say what the games are, Ben.
I was getting there.
Oh.
Thank you. Top left corner, that's a game called Broforce. Middle game is called Terra Nil, was nominated for a BAFTA, which is quite cool. Top right game is a small little game called Ikelia. Bottom left is a game called Cocoon, which a company in Johannesburg, 24-bit games, ported from PC to console. And then the bottom right corner is a game called Shroom and Gloom, which currently has over 100,000 wish lists. It's going to make a lot of money. Ciphering games industry is pretty small. I think we have less than 1,000 maybe professional roles in it, but very, very impactful. We have studios like Free Live, Sea Monster, 24 Games, Talent Digital Arts who are making like amazing games. And we have a pretty active games community as well. On the left is a photo from Africa Games Week, which happens in Cape Town every year as well. On the right is Playtopia. Africa Games Week is more like a business conference. Playtopia is more like sort of a festival, an arcade. There are monthly meetups in Cape Town, Johannesburg, Durban, Pretoria, all the cities that matter. Not really. There's other places, but like the game scene in South Africa has been going for quite a while. You can find a community online as well. Make is massive. Make Games to Say. They have places that people are making games. Most of the industry is split between Joburg and Cape Town. So if you're in the room, congratulations. If you're watching online and you're not in Johannesburg and Cape Town, sorry. But there are Discords, so you can do that. Opportunities and limitations, we have limited time. So I'm just going to tell you the biggest opportunity is in South Africa. It is really cheap to make games here compared to the rest of the world. It's really hard to kind of tell you. Like some of the biggest games like Naughty Dog are made in the west coast of the US. It costs someone 200,000 Rand per person per a month to make a video game there. I don't think you're going to get very close to that in South Africa. So if you can break into games and get international funding, it is a really great place to make games. The biggest opportunity. Wow, I know it's back.
That was not me.
The biggest issue you'll face is you are competing with the world. You can make games and make them for the entire world, but that also means everyone else in the world is making games. So almost from the get-go, you're making games that have to compete with the world. So that is tough. It is kind of an exciting time to be entering games, ironically. It is exciting, like trying to do a backflip off a motorbike while racing an anaconda and debating generative AI with a vegan.
Nah, say that again.
I can't. It has its challenges. But that's because of a platform called Roblox. Look how unrealistic that is. Have you ever seen a white person move that well? That is a great dance. But honestly, a whole generation of kids has grown up playing games that look like this. And so what we're seeing is it's taking less and less budget and less time to make games that can do really well. All of these games on screen have sold more than 3 million copies each. That game in the top left corner might be the ugliest game I've ever seen in my life, Vampire Survivors, and it has now sold 10 million copies. Repo in the top right-hand corner is a game that was made in Sweden in like a few months, made about 20 million copies. Among Us in the bottom left corner has made like 30 million copies or something. It's a really good time to make games that don't necessarily take too long to make or have like really high production values, which means it's easier than ever to possibly break into making games.
So it can be like you and your homie.
Exactly.
Just making a game. It doesn't have to look like Relooted.
Speaking of Relooted, though. So Relooted is the game we just launched. It came out on February 10th in 2026. The idea came from visiting the British Museum. And when visiting the British Museum with my parents, my mom saw the entire front of a building which the British had stolen and dismantled brick by brick and moved 2,000 kilometers and reconstructed. They stole a building. Very impressive. And my mom said, why don't you make a game about that? Unfortunately, I'm not a very good game designer, so I didn't know how to make moving a building out of another building very fun. So very quickly moved much smaller scale, African artifacts, which is where the initial idea for Relooted came from.
So remember I was talking about learning that you can write yourself into stories. So when we started creating the characters of Relooted, we didn't just want to, Wakanda forever. No disrespect to Wakanda at all, but we basically wanted our characters to reflect where they're from. So in the corner there, that's Nomali. And she is she's a Pedi girl, Kimupedi. So we started borrowing from from Bapedi dresses and also just neighboring groups as well, to kind of make sure that the inspiration comes from real cultures. And Ndedi over there is from Cameroon, and he's got a mask. And so we started looking at different masks that are worn, and there's a mask that you wear at the top of your head, which became his camouflage because he is an acrobat. And so it was very important for us to make sure that the characters themselves reflect real African places, real African cultural heritage, and not just make a meng muso, a mixed masala of Wakanda forever, where there's Basutu blankets, there's Zikolo, but it's all the same nation. Here, we were very specific about borrowing from the countries that the characters are from. And so we spent a lot of time making sure that if you come from a certain area, you would know that that little bit over there is from my culture, right? We wanted people to be able to look at the characters and go, oh, real African characters, because the whole story is about real Africans who take back African artifacts from Western museums. Not only that, though, all of the museums in the game are not real museums. We kind of call the West, so we call Europe the old world, and we call America the shiny place. You know how when they tell stories, they say Africa is a country, so we call them the old world and the shiny place and left it right there. But we wanted a real African city, and so when we were thinking about designing Johannesburg, that's in the game, we wanted to look at real places that if you've been to Johannesburg, you can say, oh, I recognize that. And obviously the first place was the bridge. And so we looked at the Nelson Mandela Bridge and imagined, so, that's the real bridge. That's the bridge in our game. And we imagined what it would look like underneath there. So we removed all of those train tracks and we imagined what would it look like if there was a park down there with cafes, a library, and, jacarandas, and just what if it was green and it was a walkable city. So that was also important in making sure that we were looking at an Africa of the future. And that was very important to us, to get some inspiration from real African cultures and a real African city.
And then working on the gameplay, it was really important for us to make a game that was non-violent, because these real life artifacts that are in the game were often taken very violently from the people. And so we wanted to make a heist crew that was taking these artifacts by sort of outsmarting the security systems rather than overpowering them. And there's a lot of heist games which feel more like bank robbery games and less like Ocean's 11. And we thought that'd be a cool thing to do, how to make your own heist montage and execute it. So you can sort of see the steps that exist in the gameplay. In the first step, you're casing the joint, trying to figure out what are all the obstacles that are in your way. In step 2, you're sort of making a plan, trying to figure out what are all the steps you could do. And then step 3, you're preparing. You're putting all your crew members around the level. You're maybe placing tables underneath security shutters that'll close. And then step 4, you're executing. You're sort of flowing through this plan. It's like a heist montage that you've come up with yourself. And it feels really cool. And what are you stealing? You're stealing or reclaiming artifacts.
So it was important for us to actually find real life artifacts that were in museums. And I want to start with this one. It's called Ngaji Drum. So somewhere in the hideout, the team's hideout, you've got, every time you reclaim an artifact, you can go to the hideout and look at the information about the artifact. So this is the Ngaji Drum from Kenya. And it tells you which mission you reclaimed it in, when in time it's from. So this is a super, super old drum, and it belongs to the ethnic group, the Pokomo people of Kenya. And this is a really interesting story. So it was important for us also to tell the story of the artifacts. Actually, the Pokomo people thought that this artifact was lost. Turns out it was in the British Museum in storage. And for a while, the British Museum didn't even know they had it. And the first person to see it in over 100 years was the king's brother, and they basically took him to the basement and said, "Kio dram ya lona," and then peace out, you know. So some of these artifacts are just sitting there. These are people's cultural artifacts. And another example is the Vigango statues. And you always think these things were taken during colonialism, but actually these were taken in the 80s. So the kigango, one kigango is if your ancestor or if your mother or brother dies, you basically carve this and you put it in the woods. And every one of these represents an important person in somebody's life. In the 80s, American art dealers found these in the wood. And I suppose they went, well, why would they just leave these art pieces in the wood? So they took them. This is basically like stealing somebody's tombstone. They took a bunch of them in the 80s and actually sold them in the States. And famous artists and Hollywood people had these, which are basically people's tombstones. And this was in the 80s, and there are many efforts to take them back to the Pokoma people in Kenya. So there's things like that we focused on because these artifacts are really important. And sometimes it is the physical remains of people. I'm sure as South Africans, you all know about, Sarah Baartman, but also they were collecting heads in museums. Like, this is gross. And again, these things don't belong to any one person and should not be traveling and be in museums. So here we've got Pedro from the Amazon, and actually they found him in the lid of a bin in a storage in a museum. And there's a long, interesting story about Pedro, and they gave him that name because nobody knows who he is. And so you get to learn a lot about these artifacts from the game. So the artifacts are important, and we make sure that once you've done the reclaiming, you can also learn something. And of course, the story is important. And as I said before, I'm a writer. And so it was important to tell the story of the artifacts, but also tell the story of an African team. And the fact that our main character's name is Nomali and her brother is Trevor, and there's her grandmother, Prof. Grace. And they were also, this is a very important story, they were also voiced by South African artists. So Mam Abigail Gubega voices Prof. Grace. Lazola Kola, the comedian, voices Trevor. Masasa Mbangeni voices Nomali, and we got really authentic people to tell this story, because a story is also very important in a game like Relooted.
So as I said earlier, 230 people in the credits. Team peaked at about 30 people full time. I think the development team probably was about close to 100 people, and we had people from over a dozen African countries. So probably the most Pan-African video game ever made by far. And Mahale will tell you about making games with a team, because I didn't want to write this part.
So this is the entire team, and I'd never made a game with a team, so I wasn't sure what to expect. And you can see it's a lot of people. And so when I went into it, there were kind of these examples of what it is to make a game. It's like, okay, there's the initiation, pre-production, testing, all of these very important things. And you go in there thinking it'll just be like that. But actually, it's like this. Because we're a big studio, but at the time, right, I was the narrative person, there was a researcher, and I had to help him write the stories of the artifacts. Ben was not only the CEO, but he was the creative director, but also he was involved with design. And sometimes I would be brought in by design to say, hey, what's the story of this level? And so all of this means a game doesn't have a straightforward way to be made. It looks like that until you've got something that you can show. So a lot of the time, you mustn't think of this, big studios have got, this is the production department, this is whatever. But because if it's just you and 3 of your homies, you should be able to do everything. Don't just say, we're not game. Oh, okay, it's working again. He was gone to fix it, but I think he fixed it. I don't know. Anyway, so the thing about working with a big team is you still have to play.
Sure.
Okay.
Are we back? Are we rebooting? Can we go? Okay, over to you.
Okay, so like I said, if it's just you and 3 of your homies, even if it's 2 of you, make sure everyone is involved because that's how you make the greatest games. Let's talk about the African possibility and representation and shifting African focus. So I'm going to talk about something called African futurism. When I started writing Intruders all those many years ago with my zombie apocalypse in Soweto, my werewolf from Mitchell's Plain, people asked me if it's Afrofuturism. And I said no. And the reason I said no is because of the definition of Afrofuturism, which I will read. It's speculative fiction that addresses African American themes and addresses African American concerns in the context of 20th century technoculture, blah, 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 blah. So Afrofuturism addresses issues that African Americans have in the world. I'm not an African American. I'm an African living in Africa. So I define the work that I do as African futurism, not Afrofuturism. And so that is what Relooted is. And that brings me to, you know, the kinds of African-made games that are coming out and have started. Oh, to quote myself, I believe Africans in Africa need something entirely different from Afrofuturism, our needs, blah, blah, blah. So that was me making a stand saying, please, Uskampita Afrofuturism, ke African futurism. And I want to talk about the rise of African-made games in this kind of Africans having different needs. So in 2016, a studio in Cameroon did a Kickstarter crowdfunding for this game called Orion Legacy of Coriodan. And it was released in 2016. And it basically borrows from African mythology from Cameroon, but it happens on a fictional planet, as you can see. So it's like, it's fantastical, but it comes from African mythology. That was in 2016. And then in Nigeria, there's a game developer, Tade, who is actually working on a game called Go North. And it's a maze adventure. So you can work on different types of games. If you want an action RPG, you can do that. This is one where you basically solve mazes. It's not out yet. So he's still working on it, probably trying to get the funding, because funding is something that's very important. And then in Kenya, the studio Kunta Content is working on a game called Hiru. And this one is quite impressive because it's so this also mythology, but it's kind of based fantastical, and it's a 3D adventure game. This is in Kenya, not out there, working on it. You can actually check them out on Instagram. You can check them out on Instagram. So there are people who are using this idea of African futurism in their games. And then there's another interesting one from Ghana made by Leti Arts. And it's basically about, it's a side scroller, an action adventure side scroller. And Moroa is, she's an archaeologist, but she's got cerebral palsy and she's trying to work through the world with her crutches. And then she comes in touch with basically an artifact that she's chosen by a mysterious spirit. And she basically goes and fights the bad guys and she's rescuing friends. This one is also in the works, but you can check out the demo on Steam. So this is happening all over the continent. People are taking big chances with African futurism, not Afrofuturism, Yawakanda.
One thing to touch on quickly in relation to getting funding is the hustle. The thing about making games in Africa is it's hard. It is, but it's as hard as everywhere, but harder. One of the things that makes it harder is no one on the continent really funds game development. So you're going to have to find your investment overseas, and that means you're going to have to hustle. And what that involves is networking. I know it's a terrible word. Everyone hates it, but you don't have to call it networking if you want. It's just a word. You're making friends. You're having interesting conversations, sharing common ground. That's all networking really is. Forget about like what the word means and just do it. Secondly, though, I think it is crucial for all African people who want to make video games to do, because we're very short of information and data and lack a lot of experience. So we need all the data and advice we can get. So networking is really fundamental. And what it really comes down to with networking is putting yourself out there. One of my favorite quotes by someone who you should never Google this quote, who it's from, but I still use it, is 80% of success is just showing up. And one of the stories for that is our previous game, Semblance. My co-founder, Shakir, went to a conference in Germany, did not have a meeting with this publisher, somehow managed to talk his way into the room with the CEO and pitched him on the game. And that's how we got funding for our first video game, despite having just come straight out of university. So if you're going to travel all that way, or you're going to like try and go for it, you have to put yourself out there. You can only control, what you do. You can't control them saying no. Checking yourself out of that experience because you think they'll say no, that's not in your power, not something you should do. Because this is a publisher called Raw Fury, and they like publish and fund video games. They say they get over 1,500 pitches a year, and they sign less than 1% of those, right? So hustle gets your foot in the door, and it makes you stand out, but it doesn't necessarily close the deal. It just gets you more chances. But the more chances you get, the more likely it's going to happen. So the thing about getting funding for games in Africa is it is really hard. But you can also make video games here and sell it to the world. The problem is the whole world is making video games too. What's harder to do on average here is to make a good game. But I can assure you that funders do not care where you are making games from. They just care if it's good. They do not care if you're in Africa, anywhere in Africa. They just care if the game is good. And Relooted and our entire studio is proof of that. Relooted basically raised funding via some European friends giving us a loan into a Hollywood talent agency, UTA, representing us and pitching us to some of the biggest games companies in the world. None of those companies cared that we were in South Africa. So I promise you, it does not matter that you are here. Funding for Relooted took over 3 years to do, and it happened in small phases and small chunks over time. It wasn't just all the money raised at once. And so in terms of coming back to this thing about taking swings, over the course of 10 years in games, I've probably pitched close to 100, maybe 120 times. I've only had 4 deals on the table. So if I had got disheartened by all the no's I'd gotten, those 4 deals would have never even happened. So you basically have to put yourself out there and keep pitching as much as possible if you want to go for funding. And shout out.
Go Ben.
So the biggest tip for creatives looking for funding is something my mom always says, is find a customer first. Before you make a business plan, before you pitch to someone, find someone who's willing to buy something first. And there's a game developer and a studio in South Africa who's always inspired this. This is one of the games I showed you earlier, Broforce. On the left is the first prototype of the game that was made in 2012 in 72 hours. And this game blew up and got like 100,000 downloads for free online. And then they went from that in 2012 to releasing the game, full game in 2015, ended up selling 3.3 million copies. In less than 3 days, they knew that people wanted to play the game. Without working on it for long, without getting funding, in the space of 3 days, they knew that people wanted to do it. So they found the customer first. And once you find a customer, it's easy to get someone to fund you to make the game. And so that's all good and well, and like all that stuff, but like where to start. This is someone called Lesego Foster. He's an Emmy award-winning animation director. He directed an episode of Kazazimoto on Disney+. I was lucky enough to study at Wits University at the same time he was studying. And one thing he said to me when he was trying to teach me how to draw and failing very badly is, you have 10,000 bad drawings inside of you. Get them out as quickly as possible. And so what that means is you just got to show up. You got to just start, honestly. This is something I made in 2014 at 21 years old. This is from 2026 at 33 years old, making Relooted.
Look at you. Okay.
Yeah. That's right. I'm still making platformers. That's it. But really, all you have to do to start making video games is clone the games that already exist. Take Pong, take Tetris, take Space Invaders, try and understand what it feels like to make those games. It is a lot simpler than you think it is. There are things you can download right now. If you have a computer like Scratch, you can make a whole video game in Scratch. This is what blueprints look like in Unreal Engine. One of the game of the years this year or last year, Expedition 33, which sold 8 million copies, won every award at the Game Award. 95% of that game is made with that. It's not even code. It's just drag and drop. If the French can do it, you can do it too. Shout out to the French. The French don't need justice. Anyway, as you learn to make games, there's things called game jams, which you can try out. It's making a game, a really bad game, in a very short amount of time. These are called game jams. You can make them in 48 to 72 hours. There's literally a website called itch.io where everyone uploads their games to. They have a whole section for game jams. At any given time, this is how many game jams are happening at once. So people all around the world are making games.
I want to hear that you game developers here are going to go find a game jam and do something. Doesn't have to be perfect, just has to work.
In fact, if it's perfect, you're probably doing it wrong. Anyway, other learning platforms, YouTube, I promise you, man, guys from India have taught me a lot about programming. I don't know what it is. Don't know what's happening over there. Shout out to Indian programming YouTubers. Good God, those guys helped me a lot.
I mean, I learned about writing for games from watching YouTube videos because I'd never written for a game. So don't underestimate those people that have got the skills on YouTube.
Yeah, 100%. Also, official engine resources, Unity, Godot, Unreal Engine, they're really good. That's how I learned to make games. GameDev.tv, you can just Google it. Also has a lot of resources you can learn. But one of the things you can do is obviously join a community.
And I know it sounds pretty basic, but I think you want to find your people and grow together. That's definitely what Ben did for Relooted. He knew that the people that currently exist in, well, at that time existed in the South African games industry would not be able to make Relooted with him. So he just went and picked a bunch of wild people. He picked this woman who, you know, works in comics and writes novels. And he was like, want to make a game? And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? And there were a bunch of people. He also spent some time, where did you find Bongani again? So you spent some time looking at people's art on ArtStation as well, people that had never worked in games and said, I think I like your eye, I think I like what you do. So find your people, and I'm going to use a great example, and Ben is going to get so tired of me talking about these two people. But find your people and grow together, because in 2012, Ryan Coogler, yes, the one who's got an Oscar, was hanging out at Forrest Whitaker's production company, and young Michael B. Jordan was there. And they just happened to meet, and he said, you know, I'm working on this thing called Fruitvale Station, and I'm trying to find, you know, somebody to star in it. And Mike was like, okay, cool, yeah, let's go to the Starbucks and talk about it. And on the way, they were jaywalking. Firstly, please use the traffic lights. But basically, Ryan Coogler was like, why are you crossing here in front of cars? And Mike was like, no, they'll stop. And just from that little interaction, he was like, nah, this is my dude. These people have worked on so many films together, but that's how they started. And growing together means you eventually work on Creed. You work on Wakanda. You work on Wakanda together. And then finally, because not everything you do is going to be a hit. Not everything is going to earn you 16 Oscars. But when they finally got to Sinners, they had found each other and they kept growing. 16 Oscars. Met in 2012. Imagine what you and your homie here can do, and then, I don't know, in 14 years, you'll say, hey, remember that time at Amped? And I'll be like, no, but give me a job as a please. You know, you could be hiring me next. All I'm saying is Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan did not get into this to win Oscars. In fact, you saw how crusty he was. Please go back to Fruitvale. You see how crusty he was there. Mans was just looking for a job. Ryan Coogler had never directed anything. Sometimes you find your homie, and yes, maybe Creed, you know, the first Creed isn't going to do so well. Creed 3, though, like 2 films later, was one of the biggest sports films, right? And that's amazing at the box office. Ryan didn't know what he was doing with, you know, with Black Panther, but he did the thing, and that was also a box office hit, and he had his people with him. By the time Wakanda Forever came back, this man knew that him and his friend have got a formula and they must keep working. When he worked on Sinners, he called up Michael B. Jordan and said, let's do it again. But they had no idea that they would become Oscar winners. So what I'm saying is, don't nyatsa the person who's sitting next to you. Don't nyatsa your homies because they are not Ben Myers or they're not Mohale Mashiko. Me also, I wasn't Mohale Mashiko of games before Ben hit me up. I was Mohale Mashiko of novels and comics. And so what I'm saying is, if Ben did not find his people and grow with them, we wouldn't be here for Relooted. Thank you.
Thank you. Slim, where are you? Can't see you. That is pretty much our prepped content.
Yeah, because I know you have questions and so does Slim. So we want this to be your portion of this. But seriously, if you start making money in games, hire me. I'm tired of Ben.
I've always been the Ben Myers of games, just for the record. Because that's all I can do. Oh, damn. There's a little stool, a cute little stool for you.
Oh, make cute.
Thanks.
Really?
Sorry, you weren't prepped at all for this. I should have given you a shout out earlier.
No, I think I was wrong for giving her a promotion too soon. My apologies for that. So sorry. The first question is, basically, what with the stats of over 80%, right, of South African gaming locations overseas, right? What would you say keeps you here? So what keeps you guys in South Africa?
I think, I mean, I think it's a great place to make video games and live. I've been lucky enough to have traveled quite a lot around the world, and it's still one of the best places in the world to live.
Yeah,
and make
for
games.
you.
And also, it doesn't matter that geographically where we are, as long as we keep making the games we make. Just like Ben said, the funders don't care if you are in Timbuktu or whether you're in Busan or whatever. They really just want to make sure that it's a fun idea, that they are. And also, where would I go? Honestly, the rest of the world sucks. I don't want to lie to you guys. The rest of the world sucks. Their winters are horrible. Their summers are too much. They don't have trees. Gooby. I am in a great country. I wouldn't go anywhere unless Ryan Coogler needs me for his next film. Then cheers, but that.
And how do you feel about telling such authentic South African stories, such different stories? And what are the challenges that actually come with that? I think that's more for you.
No, Ben's got something to say.
No, I was literally going to say that sounds like a you question.
So to be honest with you, in the same way that I was telling you guys that I grew up reading books that did not reflect my world, it's become kind of my life's work to reflect the world that I come from in film, in comics, in novels as well. Every art that I do is important. The challenge is, of course, that the world is not used to hearing our stories from us. So occasionally they freak out when we say, hey, we're a bunch of Africans telling an African story. They're not used to that. So they get a little uncomfortable, but I've never been stopped by people being uncomfortable. They can be uncomfortable till the day I die. I'm still going to be telling stories from here.
100%.
So sometimes you need to coax the audience and be like, no, I'm not trying to hurt you. Hey, it's a good story, while moving forward, though. So I think that's, for me, that's one of the challenges.
Got you. And I mean, you guys have had games on platforms like Nintendo, right? And I'm sure that doesn't happen overnight. That doesn't have, for anybody here that wants to get on a platform like that or platforms like that, what would you say is the pathway or the process to getting onto platforms like that?
Depending on the platform, it's easier than you think. Nintendo is not easy. I'm technically on a watch list in Japan because I've smuggled Nintendo dev kits into this country. Sorry.
Now you tell me I'm working with a criminal.
Are we in Japan? I'm a criminal in Japan.
I love going to Japan.
How do you Ryan Coogler is probably a criminal as well. Just think about it.
Leave Ryan Coogler out of this.
Yeah, something like Xbox, you just have to make something decent and pitch it, and then they will send you the equipment for free to make. But honestly, consoles are kind of hard and not necessarily worth it. You can get richer on every other platform, so don't worry about consoles. It's not worth it. Don't do it. But you can do it, but don't.
Yeah, right, because you can put your demo on itch.
Yeah, Steam on PC is going to make you 90% of all your money.
Jeez.
Unless you're like super, super rich, it's not worth putting your games on consoles, weirdly. That's just how it works.
Yes, PlayStation people will cry, but they must cry over there. We're trying to build here.
Love it, love it. And speaking of building, what would you say in your vision? What does the gaming world, the gaming culture look like in the next 10 years?
10 years? I don't
Yeah.
even know about 5 minutes. Then
I have no idea. Oh my God. I think we're probably going to be streaming games from TVs with no like hardware needed at all. And I think that's going to be
Yeah.
sick. And it's going to open up the world of games to pretty much everyone, which is
For
going to be
sure.
amazing.
For sure, for sure.
definitely more stories from the continent.
Yeah.
I mean, now that I'm thinking about it, I know there's some good games coming out of here. I'm watching you guys. Linadi Focus. I like that.
Yeah, love it, love it. So those are the ones from me, guys. I will now open it up to the floor. So if any of you guys have questions, remember how it works. You lift up your hand, or you go stand towards that direction over there, behind Bianca and Nicole, or in front of Bianca and Nicole. And then once you have a question, you stand on those 2 spots over there, ask your question, and yeah, we'll answer it, or they will answer it as best. Cool? All right, so who has a question? Make your way, make your way. You guys can start making your way. All right, cool. You need my mic. It's not gonna happen. Jokes, 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 jokes.
Hey family, hello guys.
Hi, family.
As a question for you, bro. If AI had to take over in maybe 5-10 years time, what's your way forward?
In games, it's weirdly unlikely to happen for a while. A lot of games players seem to hate AI really badly. So I don't see it happening anytime soon in games, weirdly enough. I think it's more likely to happen in film than it is in games. But I think sort of artisanal games, like handmade games, are always going to be more interesting to players. I don't know what it is about games specifically, but they seem slightly immune to AI at the moment. So it's hard to tell. It's hard to see like most games being made with AI going forward. So.
And then a question for you. In 10-20 years time, when maybe you're tired of doing books, what's your way forward?
Wow, okay. Don't say tired of doing books, man. I do think that my next place is film and TV. I've been writing scripts for a while. I'm a script doctor, but I think that is my next step. I'll still keep making games. I'll still keep writing comics and novels, but I think that for me is the next place to go.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Hey, hi. How are you guys? Okay, the one question that mind boggles me is that I see the Reluted game. Which engine were you using and which version did you start? If you were using Unreal, maybe did you start with Unreal 4 or move it up to 5? And how did you integrate the systems? And was it really hard to move from one version to the next? That's the one thing that's on my mind.
Yeah, we started in Unreal Engine 4 point something, and then we tried to stay on it for a really long time. But eventually, because we had to launch on Xbox, we had to upgrade to 5 because the consoles have like pieces of software that only work with certain versions of Unreal. Basically, you don't want to upgrade engine versions very often, and most game engines have something called LTS versions, which are long-term service, and those are like you can use this version of the engine for like 2-3 years.
Okay.
And so when you like go into production in a game, you always want to go into production on a LTS version, because every time you upgrade, stuff's going to break. It will break.
Because I noticed that, because the one thing is, as I've been working on my game, right, and I noticed the frequent updates change the workflow. Because right now I'm changing from the normal traditional animation system, and now we're moving to the data sets. And now the whole game I was working on for the past 3 years basically hit a brick wall because I can't add the new features.
Yeah, upgrading is never a good idea. You got to like time it very specifically. The
Okay.
only reason we upgraded is because of the consoles. Otherwise, we wouldn't have done it. Yeah.
Oh, so it was strictly an Unreal Engine 5. You didn't switch between Unity.
No,
or...
we went from 4.7 to Unreal Engine 5.2. Yeah.
Okay.
But that, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Hi guys, that was a good masterclass by the way. So I have a question on hardware, like in the context of Africa and South Africa. So what I've noticed while trying to build a gaming PC or buy a gaming laptop is that it's actually quite expensive here, like a lot expensive to get the peak performance. Like for example, and 5060 is like 100K, and that's very unrealistic to even think of. So when making games in South Africa, do you have consideration for the hardware it's going to run on? Because as you was asking, I was thinking of going to look at Relooted, but then now I'm wondering if it's even going to run on my PC, because it's like, I think its limitation is 2016 games. So do you have consideration of like hardware limitations for the main base that you're selling to, or how does it work?
Yes, we do. Relooted's target audience is actually ironically not like Africa or sub-Saharan Africa because of this exact problem. In South Africa and Africa, there's actually a very small population of people playing games on PC and console. There's 200 million people playing games in Africa, but they're all on mobile. So if you want to make PC and console games and make a living, you're going to have to sell primarily to like Europe and the US primarily. If you're making games for PC, you do have to take into account the hardware, but Steam actually does a hardware survey. And so you can see 80% of people on Steam on PC use this like graphics card. And so that's what we look at. We did try to make the game run on as low hardware as possible. And that was for like South Africa and Africa. But in terms of like actually generating revenue, the level is like just way higher overseas, unfortunately. And that's just based on where the revenue is. And one of the things I'd love to see is being able to just focus on local markets and focus on people on PC, but there just isn't enough people playing on PC just yet in SA. But in terms of like hardware, just stop playing AAA games, play indie games. You can run like, you don't need a lot of hardware to do that. And the games are better. It's like one AAA game will cost you like 1,000 Rand. You can buy 10 indie games for 100 Rand and they'll last you way longer and be better. And you can play them on like really bad graphics cards. You don't need a 5060, bro. It'll be fine.
Yeah. Okay, one last question. It's about development on Linux. Since I'm a Linux user mostly, but I also want to start developing games as well. Do you think the scene is good enough, or is it like the engines run mostly on Windows and Mac only?
I try not to think about Linux much in my life. So why did you do this to me? I actually have no idea. Running anything on Linux seems impossible to me. But
actually, you might be surprised.
I'm sure, you see, you are a Linux user. That's what you guys all say. I think a lot of game engines will run on Linux to some extent but yeah, I am not 100% sure. I think Godot definitely will, which is open source. But your life is going to be harder making games on anything except Windows, for sure.
Well, I have a different opinion because of.
I mean, it's not. I promise you, it's not a philosophy. I'm just saying it just is harder for whatever reason.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Lovely. Hi to everybody. Lovely presentation. I loved all the advice. I have a question on like the animation. I myself am an animator, but I just recently started. And what I've realized is that most indie games don't really, I feel like they don't really have like a pipeline for like an animation where they will actually like step by step work on like the animation. And I've watched a lot of AAA games. They use I forgot what it's called, but they film actors actually acting
Mocap.
out mocap, and they use the suits.
Yeah.
So my question is an animation one. How would I, as an animator, break into like the gaming industry, where I apply my skills as an animator into like gaming?
So that mocap thing we did do.
We did do mocap, yeah.
But if you're starting out, I mean, there are some animators that are working in games in South Africa.
Yeah, I mean, it depends a little bit on the kind of animation you want to do, but like almost no game can be made without animation, right? To some extent. Like all video games require movement over time, which is animation, right? And a lot of what makes games feel good is people's sense of animation. Like even at a game design level, like tweaking the values is all about the 12 principles of animation, making it look and feel good. So it is competitive with animation, but like almost everything in games is animation, and having a good eye and feel for animation is what makes games feel good. So if it's 2D versus 3D, it depends, but yeah, it's just a matter of timing and what projects are being made in SA at the time, I think, if it's 3D or 2D, but all games need animation to some extent. So if you stick it out, there's going to be opportunity eventually.
And I guess also if you look at some of your favorite games and try to, a portfolio, basically saying these are the things that I can do in games. This is how I learned, even from, I don't know, a Super Mario Brothers or whatever, just saying you kind of played games and gotten the sense of this is how animation in a game like that could work. I think that would be really cool when you approach a game studio or somebody who's working on a game, so they know what you're capable of and they know that you're thinking about animation in games and not like making films.
Another question. It's I think this is directed to the game designer. Topology. I think topology is very, very a difficult topic, and I don't really get, like, I know how good topology looks, but sometimes I feel like I don't really understand like the flow of like how topology needs to look good so that it unwraps really well and it animates really good.
Me too, brother.
That's a terrible answer.
No, I'm not a 3D artist. It is just like one of those things that like 3D artists train at and like work really hard at. Like I don't really know. I'm not a 3D artist, unfortunately, but it is. I think it has something to do with, depending on your topology and the way it flows, then the UV unwrapping, and then it's about like when you animate, like is it going to glitch out and like do something weird, right? So topology is all about making other people's lives down the pipeline easier. It's really what it comes down to. Okay. That's as much as I know. Sorry.
It's all good. It's all good.
That's why I pay artists, because I don't know the answer to this.
It's all good. And I'd like to like talk to my fellow game devs. I myself, I started on a pretty base PC, and I feel like I've done a lot more than what my PC can handle. So I think that with your limitations, I think that you should work within those limitations, because you solve more problems within those limitations. And by the time you get something that costs about 50,000, it feels pretty smooth and you work pretty well. So limitations, I feel like they're good for like when you're starting out, because they help you, they propel you to higher heights. Yeah, thanks, my guy. They propel you. Yeah. So work within your limitations. Thank you.
For those of you who don't know, this is Roblox. 400 million people play Roblox every month. You can download the engine to make Roblox games now. I promise you this does not need a 5060. Just to your point. Like,
we'll do.
And last year at Playtopia, there was a Nigerian, no, 2 years ago, a Nigerian game developer who basically said he made a game on a PC that was so bad, he called it a potato. And he worked within his limitations, like you said. So sometimes don't start with Sinners. Start with Fruitvale Station with that crusty Michael B. Jordan.
Afternoon, team. I actually have a very, like, it's a question, but it's a question, you know. So when I was growing up, there used to be this channel that I used to watch on DSTV. I forgot what it is. Strictly used to just be games and all of those things, gaming and all of those things. So I saw a lot of esports teams, and I often wondered that they used to show like South African esports teams, but they never used to play African games. And I wanted to know, how important is it in esports teams competing within the African region to be playing African games? And also, um, how important is it to teach kids on actually being developers instead of being consumers of video games?
It's a good question. I think in the esports community in Africa, that's something people talk about a lot in terms of wanting African game developers to make esports games for African players to play. But it's like a chicken and the egg situation because there aren't enough players to make money off so that African game developers can make games for Africans, unfortunately. I think everyone wants that, the developers want that, the players want that, but right now there isn't enough revenue to be made to like keep the lights on, which is a shame because I think there are 200 million players in Africa, but they're all playing Western games right now. So all the revenue is just like flowing out. And this is something every year at Africa Games Week in Cape Town, all the African game developers from like Nigeria, Cameroon, South Africa, we all get together and we talk every year. What's an African game? How do we access African players? Like we're talking about this all the time because we all want to do that. And we think it's important that Africans are playing African made games and Africans are making games. So I don't know about that. We're working on it. I agree with you though.
And also, how important is it to teach kids from a young age to be developers instead of consumers?
I guess that would be an interesting, right? Like Ben knew from the time he was a growing up shorty, as they used to say in my time, that he wanted to, I'm old, Ben, I'm old, that he wanted to be a game dev, right? Whereas for me, my path was a little different. I studied journalism, I went to work in advertising, I worked in radio, and then I started writing books, but before that I was a musician. So there are kids like me who are just going to go like this because their thing is not straightforward. And then there are people like Ben who knew immediately that, maybe not immediately, but if your kid has got the potential, because there's some people that just want to play games and there are other people that want to make games. And I think that's a very personal thing. And before they get to the Wits game design, school, I think there's a lot that they can do, learn at home. Again, shout out Indian developers, learn from YouTube. I mean, my nephew, he's interested in anime and I got him to start with manga and I bought him like Manga for Idiots. And then I said, just go on YouTube, and now he's got all his little things on TikTok and he's getting feedback from, other people who draw.
Thank you so much.
Afternoon, everyone. My question is basically for you, Sis Mohale. I'm a huge fan of your work, so I was introduced to your work via Lois Mkhize's Kwezi. Now my question is, let me say after like they announced on Nyamakop that you're gonna be part of the team, I was so excited, right? Now I want to know from you, like from a perspective of an author, what was the strategy like to go from writing books into video games?
So I'm so glad you asked that actually, because I didn't know what the hell I was doing when I arrived. But it's the same as when I started writing, novels. I didn't know what I was doing. And all I know is that storytelling has got the same kind of rules, but you use them differently. So in games, right, I'm so used to telling the story from one person's perspective. But here in games, I had to hear from the designers. I also had to let some of the artists say this is how we're going to tell the story. And I think comics was a very good way to learn that, because the first comic I did for Marvel, I basically, because with a comic, it goes to the writer first and then it goes to the illustrator. So you have to say, this page is like however many panels, whatever. And my first one that I submitted, the editor said, you do know that the illustrator can illustrate some of these things. So, oh, hello. Now we can wait.
Keep going. Might be a while. I think you have to keep going.
Oh, will it be a while? Wait, no, there's somebody pressing something over there. Oh, not pressing anything. Should we just keep going?
Okay.
All right, we're back. So I think the one thing I had to learn moving from comics to also working in video games is you're working with a team. Because writing a novel is just me and the pages, and my editor comes in last. But here, actually, I'm building the world with people. So I don't need to write, and the sky was blue, and da, 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 because there's people who are doing it. So I think the pressure was taken off of me. But learning about games is also, I'm not controlling what's happening. The player has to make the decisions. Ben and I went through a time where I was like, okay, but I want to tell the story this way. And he's like, it's not your story, it's the player's story. So there were things to learn about how you hand a story over to somebody, how you collaborate on writing a story, whether it's in comics or video games.
Yeah, thank you so much. My second question is to you, Sir Ben. I wanted to know, I'm not sure if I heard correctly. I think you said like it took 3 years to make Reloaded, right? More than 3 years?
Yeah, it was longer.
Okay. I just want to know, like, how long did it take to make Resemblance?
How long?
How long did it take to make the first game Resemblance?
Semblance, we made, like, I guess 2.5 years, more or less. Relooted took 8 years. It was, I mean, it's the biggest game ever made in sub-Saharan Africa by budget, team size, and scope, so it took a while.
I'm a huge fan.
Thanks, yeah.
Huge
Took a
fan.
while, that's why.
Thank you so much.
Afternoon, everybody. Afternoon. So I have a question. Like you said, it took around 250 people to work on this project. How were you able to manage that? Because I can imagine there'll be the technical team, the design team, and as well the creative team, the writers and all that. So how were you able to make sure everybody collaborates and oversee the project?
So yeah, I mean, the breakdown of that is like, I mean, it's like 80 play testers. There's a bunch of people in special thanks as well. I think of that like total, it's like only maybe 30 people were full-time on it for like most of the project. And then the rest of the time it was like people in like batches. So like we had a voice cast of like 16 people, but we were doing them over like recording them over months. So it's like you're just getting different people at different times so that you don't have to like manage. It's not like a film where it's like all the people for like 2 months and then you're done. It's like chunks of people over time, so it's less people. But we did have full-time project managers, so we had 3 full-time project managers managing the 30 people as well. So yeah, that's kind of how it was. That's also why it took so long.
You forgot to say you were able to oversee it because you had a team you trusted, a very good team, very talented team.
That's why I didn't. There's a reason I didn't say that.
Hater.
And in terms like the development side, did you implement any coding? Did you have a coding team as well?
Yeah, no, we had 3 full-time programmers and another couple, 2 to 3 other programmers at different times. So yeah, it was a lot of people programming.
Okay, how is it now managing the language? Because I can imagine she has a story.
Yeah.
She writes a story and the game is designed. So how is that communicated into technical terms for the programming team?
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, the narrative sort of gives you the spine and the structure, and then the way the story is told, you have to like code that, and then narrative has to get out the way and let people play the game. So it's almost like you're creating a vision and a painting, and then the programmers are trying to like figure out how to make the painting look like that in a way. I don't know how to describe it.
Did you have somebody in between, like sort of going on both sides? Technical team says this, goes back to you. Is this what you want in the game?
Yeah, it's kind of what everyone's doing. Like in a lot of ways, programmers are supporting everyone else's vision. Like the artists, the designers, everyone has like an idea of how something they need to work. And so they're talking to the programmers to make that work. Like nothing can happen without programmers in games. So programmers make everything happen, really.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sure.
How's it going there, guys? How are you? Good. My name is Mata, and I like what you were speaking about, talking about Relooted, because it reminds most of us here as Africans about our culture and past and everything. And on my side, I've been coding since grade 10. I started coding then. I taught myself coding via YouTube, watching Break Keys and Thomas Brush. But then I failed because of my PC, it crashed. Then I was like, okay, no problem. I forgot about coding and everything, although I still have that thing of wanting to code, you understand? But then as I'm standing right now, I'm no longer doing coding. However, I'm into the gaming industry as I'm the owner and founder of Vibrant Motion Gaming. We deal with esports players, and for us to be where we are, it's because of guys like you who develop games. And once you guys have developed those games, we are the same guys who take those games and play them competitively. Games like FIFA and the likes. However, when it comes to Relooted, on my side, I feel like most people won't get much recognition of it. But then what I would like to do, I would like to take Relooted and give it a review and share it out there with other people, knowing that there is Relooted in that game. Although it won't be much as competitively like some other games, I obviously have an idea. I can take these players or game developers as they are, and I can set a press pool and be like, okay, tell me who is the main character of Relooted? What's their dress code? This thing, or maybe that mask on their hair, what does it represent? Where is it from? It does not only uplift us as gamers, but then it also makes us remember who we are, where we do come from. You understand? Because I also do have one of my players, he's an artist, a very artist. He was approached by Comic-Con, but then he turned down the offer. So I would like to know that since he is a good artist, how can I put him up there and probably work with you guys so he can sell his artwork design drawings for gaming companies to use in their upcoming games?
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of being an artist, it's competitive, right? Like that's the reality. And again, it's this thing of like you're making games to compete with everyone else in the world making games as well. So these things take a long time. And so it's just about what I was saying. It's like putting yourself out there and trying to figure out how to make it work. You just got to keep taking swings, pitching people, and eventually it'll happen. It's a very unsatisfying answer, but it is like you got to figure out how to make it work. And if you keep trying, eventually it'll happen.
Okay, on which gaming platforms can I play Relooted?
Relooted's on Steam, the Epic Game Store, and Xbox Play Anywhere, whatever the hell that means.
Okay. Just for confirmation, how would you feel if I would share it on the internet, giving the review about Relooted and probably streaming playing Relooted? Because I see a lot of players playing FIFA, but then we want something new, because right now if you open TikTok or Instagram and just type anyone who streams FIFA, there are tons of them. But then if you can start streaming Relooted, less than 0.1% of people know about Relooted, and I think once streaming it, you can go far.
Yeah, no, you're welcome to stream it. Go ahead.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Stream it, review it, play it, love it.
Cheers.
Good afternoon. Hi, everybody. My question to both of you is, how can people like me, voice impressionists / voice actors, put ourselves out there for people like you to identify us and select us to be in your team you know, because like one of the many voices I do, famous voices that you might know. Hey man, I'm Cleveland Brown. Huh, huh, huh. Hey man, huh. Hey Peter, come over here, man. Come check it out, man. Oh my God, Cleveland. Oh my God, it's AMP. Oh my God, can you believe it? Peter, no. I told you no. Peter, don't you dare. All right? Thank you. So just want to know, like, how can people like us put ourselves out there in a way that you can identify us and select us to be a part of your team?
God, I have no idea. This is our first game doing voice acting, and we were very lucky to work with a casting director who helped us find a lot of the voice actors. So I don't know. I think it's again like trying to find ways to be visible, and putting yourself out there. I've seen voice actors on TikTok doing a lot of the stuff, and maybe that's a good way to get visible. It's again just trying to stand out from the crowd. But
yeah,
in my personal opinion, no idea, because we were lucky to just work with someone who helped us find the cast. Yeah.
Understood. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Just a quick one for this guy over here, bro, with the multi voices. There's a guy called Sina. He owns a voiceover agency. He shoots a lot of content here at AMP Studios. So after this, we can connect you with him. He'll be more than happy to help you, even if it's getting you into his agency, and see if there's any potential work you can do. Nah? All right, shout out.
Okay, Slim. Okay, I see you.
That's why you get a microphone.
Hello everyone. I trust everyone is doing okay. The question I have is about the Reluted, about your design choices. What made you like decide to make a platformer game instead of a 3D game?
Yeah, fair question. That's the game we knew how to make, because we'd made a platform before, and even though we were going full 3D, it kind of works the same way. And so because we were making it in a different engine, there was so much about Reluted that was so different to Semblance, in terms of art, in terms of storytelling, in terms of like production value, everything was different. So we thought at least gameplay wise, we should make the same thing as we did previously, because it would be easier to do. So that was really the only reason, is because we knew how to do it. And on top of everything else that was hard to figure out, at least this thing we knew how to do. That was really it. I think also, but the way the gameplay ended up working, being able to see buildings from the side also make a big difference. If you were doing it like from behind, it would be a lot harder to like understand the space and make good decisions. So the perspective does help you with the gameplay as well.
It's an optimization issue, or not?
It's more like if you have a first-person camera or a behind the shoulder camera, you don't see what's behind you, right? And so you, as the player, have to look around. So it means there's always information that you're missing as the player. But if you're side on, you're always going to see to the right side of the player, to the left side of the player, and you can make decisions like that. So it's just about information for the player, yeah.
Okay, thanks, Ish. I'm nervous.
No worries.
Thanks for answering
Thanks,
my
bud.
question.
Hi guys. Firstly, just want to say thank you so much for being here. You guys, you enjoying it? You having the best day? Amazing. I've got some questions from our online community because we are live streaming it. So I thought I'd just be the voice to get some questions through to you. So one of the questions is, how far can being a multidisciplinary actually take you in a professional setting for game development, especially for someone just starting out? Say circumstances led to ending up learning about 3D, graphics pipeline, modeling, rigging, and texturing. Is this effective down the line?
Yes. I think being a generalist, especially in indie games, is super useful, but no one hires a generalist. They hire someone to do a job, and then you become a generalist. So like you get hired because you need someone to model a character. So if you can model a character and you're good enough to do that, you can get hired. And then from there, whoever's hired you will give you other roles. So like being a generalist is great for your career long term, but in the short term, you need to be good enough at one thing to get hired. And then from there, being a generalist is like amazing and definitely what everyone should try to do.
Cool. Thank you very much. And then I have a question from myself before I ask the next one, because they sort of lead into each other. I thought it was really amazing what you said earlier, that you've done like 100 pitches and, you know, only closed 4. And I think that's like amazing. And it just shows that, you know, that perseverance. But my question to you is, what does pitching look like? Is it a deck? Is it a meeting? What if you had to break it down, what does it look like to everybody here to know what a pitch means?
Yeah, a pitch is basically you're telling someone what the game you want to make is, and then you're telling them what the game is similar to and how much money you think the game will make, and therefore how much money you want to make the game. It's that simple, really. It's like, here's the game I want to make. Here's how much money I think I need to make it. Here's how much money it could make. And if you're a person with a big pile of money and you're like, I think you'll make this money back, or I think you'll make 4 times as much as this money, great. It sounds really simple because it actually is really simple, but you're basically begging people for money. That's what a pitch is. And you're trying to convince them that A, you understand the game you're making and it has an audience, and that the money they're giving you, they will make back. So it's about like, yeah, doing as good a job at telling people what your game is.
Do you need a prototype or not?
You do need a prototype these days, yes.
Great, thank you. And that brings me to the next online question here. Is the community is asking, how are they able to pitch to you two in person?
We do not have enough money to do that.
Yeah, don't pitch to me. I just work for this guy.
Yeah. I mean, I don't. I don't know. No, I mean, we're happy to help and answer questions, but we're definitely not the right people to be pitching to about getting funding, because we're also always trying to get funding as well. So we can answer advice on who to pitch, but we're not necessarily people to pitch to. Yeah.
Great, thank you so much, guys.
Sure.
All right, I think we have come to the end of our Q&A, and that's the end of our session. So Ben, thank you so much. Sis Mohale, thank you so much. The narrative director. See how it's what I did there? But thank you guys so much. I think this was super insightful. I think the gaming community is a niche community, and I think shining light and all these insights was extremely vital and important for the people that were here. So as we usher them out, we just want to say thank you to you guys, and can you guys then give them a round of applause, please?
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Rob.
All right, guys. Oh, someone is asking where can they buy?
On
Steam. Yeah.
And if you've got Xbox, what pass as well.
Oh, so this is your phone is here, ne? It doesn't fall. I'll take it. I'll take it. But guys, also thank you guys for coming through. So just to give you guys some more information, if you guys are on our WhatsApp line, we're going to be having more master classes. If you guys want to recommend certain master classes that we should be doing, please let us know through Instagram, DM. Please let us know through our WhatsApp. The reason why we create master classes like this is to upskill you guys. So we want to know what you guys' pain points are. And, you know, I'm just going to try and put a spotlight on somebody here. If anybody is brave enough, looking for 2 people. Anybody is brave enough to come and pitch what they do to the community, you guys will have the floor. We'll give you guys 1 minute. If you are a developer, a gamer who wants to pitch what you do, you come through, my bro. Come through, come through, come through. So if you can just let everybody know who you are and what you do. Floor's yours.
How's it, everyone? My name is Mata Martino, and I'm the owner and founder of Vibrant Motion Gaming. What what we basically do is we create probably like job opportunities for people who play games. You understand? You are into esports as we speak. Right now, there's a tournament we'll be hosting with Kasifle in partnership with Standard Bank and Nivea Men. So we will be hosting an FC26 tournament where we'll be giving away 3,000 rand prize pool to the top 4. And then that is the first split. Then we'll have the second split in June. Then after second split in June, we'll be having our mid-year finals where we'll be giving away 10,000 rands to the top 3. And we'll be taking all of these players all around South Africa and they play for the finals here in Johannesburg.
My guy.
So we'll be playing for the finals in 3 days. Then after the mid-year finals, it's third and fourth split. After the fourth split, then we have our grand finals at Rage Expo.
Shout out. You said 10,000, right?
Yeah, 10,000.
Damn. There we go. There we go.
And we all, at the end of the year, just to give you guys an opportunity, at the end of the year, there's a Mamelodi Sundowns tournament and esports tournament.
Bloody hell. Sorry, man.
Yeah, there's a Mamelodi Sundowns esports tournament where we are playing for a total prize of 100,000 rands, which is being shared amongst the top 8 of the tournament. And nice thing about this is that when we do all of these tournaments, it's a free entry tournament. Nothing is paid for. Nothing is paid for. I'm giving you another opportunity as well. This Friday, tomorrow, there's a FC26 online tournament brought to you by Red Bull, RB Leipzig. They are hosting a FIFA tournament, and to the top 16, they get a chance to go watch the Mamelodi Sundowns and RB Leipzig game together with the RB Leipzig first team.
Dope, dope. And how do this is incredible, right? Jeez, man. Shout out, bro. Round of applause. Yo, man, you're doing amazing work. How do people become a part of these competitions that you've mentioned? Do they follow you? Do they what's the
Well,
process?
it's simple. You can go into TikTok or Instagram, vibrantmotion.gg in small letters, and you can follow us. It's up to you. There are also our WhatsApp numbers on Instagram. You can reach out to us, and we help you in each and every way. Hence, I was saying earlier that whether you're a gamer or not a gamer, I do have some of my boys from my esports team whom aren't gamers. One of them is a perfect artist. And if he's failing in gaming, I make sure that I find something he can do in life besides gaming, where he is good at. Hence, I was saying, Relooted, since it's not a competitive game, I will find a way and pitch it out there. I can make a quiz challenges, who is the main character or who is the character being used most in the game.
For sure.
And stuff like that. There's a lot of things we can make through gaming, and honestly, it saves a lot of lives.
Dope, dope. Can I ask, can you say your social media, like spell it so that they can write it down?
It's in small letters, VIBRANTMOTION.GG.
And anybody here who wants, and anybody watching online, if they want to be a part of these sessions, they can just hit you up.
Yeah, they can just hit me up and we can take it from there.
Awesome stuff. So listen, man, just if you can repeat the last part in terms of the tournament, you said there's the one in December, because we had that sound go off. So in case people didn't hear it, can you just repeat that one?
Yes, as I was saying, there's a Mamelodi Sundowns which happens towards December. The grand prize of that Mamelodi Sundowns tournament is 100,000 rands. So that 100,000 rands will be distributed amongst the top 8 players throughout the whole tournament. Obviously, there are qualifiers for you to play the tournament. There are qualifiers first. And those qualifiers, people who have qualified, they get a ticket to play into the Mamelodi Sundowns tournament. And the nice thing about it, they only take the top 8. So whether you win or lose, at the end of the day, you walk away home with a prize.
Nice. Oh, man. Round of applause for this guy. What's your name?
Mata.
Nice to meet you, man. Dope. Yo, you're doing amazing work. Amazing work. That's really dope. Can we get one more person? One more person who wants to come on, brother. Come up on stage. Come up on stage. Can you let us know who you are and what you do?
Good afternoon. I'm seeing some familiar faces. Some of you may know me. My name is Toby, and I am a multifaceted, multidisciplinary artist. But my main focus is creative collaboration based on modeling and creative direction. So What I really enjoyed about today's masterclass was storytelling. The whole game and idea behind Relooted is there is an immense amount of storytelling behind the art, the gameplay, and etc. And that's what a lot of my work is focused on. I tell stories through fashion. I see fabric as voices, right? How you represent yourself says a lot before you even open your mouth. And I specialize in that. And I've been blessed enough to have worked with very big corporations, you may say. So I've worked with Great Africa, Lee Cooper, and I'm currently your latest skincare influencer for Portia M. So what I'm pitching to you right now is I have a professional collaboration portfolio going on for this year and this year only. I have my prices for styling and wardrobe services going for half price, and even lesser prices for students and people that have proper creative proposals. So I direct mood boards, and we have sessions where I style you with an in-house closet. So if you do want to get a hold of me, you can ask me for my number or go look at my creative portfolio on Instagram, which is S6DBOYTOBY, and I or my team will get back to you.
Shout out, shout out, shout out. My man.